Welcome back to the Faith, Family, and Football Podcast with Dr. Connor. This month, we are looking into women, and the month of August here in South Africa is Women's Month. So we do everything women in this month. In this session, we're going to look at women in society and family. Women periodically, should I say historically, have evolved in their roles. Many women have been, I would call it, well, liberated. They're part of the mainstream societal life. Many of them are taking leadership in places that was unimaginable a mere 50 years ago. Dr. Connor, what are your observations? First, let me start from there. What are observations? What are the gains that women have made, and how are they doing in their new positions? I think the last 50 years, women have really entered what I'll call new realms. They have really gained unprecedented power over some sectors of society. What are your thoughts?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been very encouraging to see just the recognition of the seminal role women play in society, and giving them, not just affirmation, but public positions of power, of influence. It's been phenomenal to see that, whether it's in the realm of the music world, Hollywood, whether it's in the realm of politics. We see in the United States right now, we could see potentially a female president, the first one ever. Hillary Clinton, who tried through the Democrats before, talked about breaking the glass ceiling, where men have always been, above this glass ceiling, and now we can break through as women. And Kamala Harris, potentially has that real possibility of becoming a president, which is amazing. Obviously we see that in European nations where women have become heads of state. Germany, Angela Merkel, and Finland, and elsewhere, Australia. You see this all over the place unfolding, recognizing that gender is not the determiner for capability. It's capability that spreads equally across gender. And so then we need to recognize that women are significant contributors in all worlds, scientific worlds, the social worlds we encounter, medical worlds. There is no limit really to the various societal responsibilities, positions that women can take leadership in. So it's wonderful recognition worldwide that we're seeing.
Beautiful. So one would say that because of these openings that have happened, and because of these positions that women have been allowed to begin to step into, there's been a big shaking on the family, especially the nuclear family, where women were like the glue, the foundations of those families that kept the families together. And I think women kept marriages together. And obviously, they're very instrumental in the raising of the children. Could we say that, honestly, looking back at the history, is this development that has happened with women, is it a social good? Can we say it's a social good?
Yeah, great question. Like anything, greatest strengths can become your greatest weakness, in those regards. And so, I guess it all just comes back even to our previous conversation on a mutual submission one to another that Paul enjoins men and women to practice. That works in family life then too, where we have our typical culturally determined or socially enacted roles within a family, nuclear family. Man has this role, he's the provider, he's et cetera, et cetera. The woman is the one who raises the children primarily. These kinds of role differentiations are not necessarily theological and eternal, but they are culturally defined. And so each family, even within a culture, has choice. And Yeah, it's a difficult decision for families. I can appreciate that. Where a man may say, you know what, I'm going to become the primary caregiver for the children, and because you as a wife, you've got greater credentialing and opportunities for work. Let's have you be the primary financial contributor, and I'll be the one step back and raise the kids. Or they both may decide, and I know some people who are doing that, and it's working well. It's a tough go for the man because people go, "What do you do?" "Oh, I watch the kids." "Oh, okay, couldn't succeed. I'm so sorry to hear that." And that's not at all right. It was a family conversation of what's the best good for
Yeah.
the family. Um, so you have that, but also there's, both man and woman working, then you have to decide, how do we raise our children with that kind of, and so you have daycare options that here in North America, well, Canada, United States are a significant opportunity. It comes at a cost financially, but also at a cost with the family. It's what are the priorities,
Yeah.
and you can make them work, but there's a loss on one side and a gain on the other side. You just have to assess, what does that mean, and I think continually to reassess, is this working the way we want in terms of how our children are developing. So it's not an easy decision, but it like you said, it definitely has an impact on the social realm of putting on the family level, nuclear family. How do we make that work? But I think the key is recognizing who each other is as husband and wife, what roles you best can play, irrespective of what your cultural norms or the societal expectations are. Your children and your relationship as husband and wife is much more important than all the people out there who you don't know, who don't care about you, but who somehow form and fashion you into their own image without even realizing it by living into those norms
Yeah.
that are sometimes maybe abnormal and inappropriate for what you need as an individual couple or family.
So, what would you say to somebody who said when men played their traditional roles and women equally played their traditional roles, society was much better?
Well, I think people would have to define, what do you mean by better? What are the criteria you're using by better? And for many, it's more predictable. It was simple. It was easy. The woman was in the
Yeah.
house,
Yeah.
the man was out of the house, and excuse me, Christine. I'm getting allergic
Yeah.
to that kind of a thing. No, it's kidding.
I like it. It's a difficult conversation. It has to have those effects.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a
Oh,
criteria, and I think anytime you make a statement of better, the
mhm.
key thing to go is, oh, tell me what are your assumptions that
Yeah. What do
finding
you
better,
define as that?
and then we just have to look at those
Yeah.
assumptions. Are those assumptions appropriate, or do they need to be revisited and reflected upon? So yeah, that's better is in the eyes of the beholder, right? And not everybody has the same eyes beholding it from the same perspective.
So, obviously, by better, one would say the divorce rates were not as high and astronomical as they are today. And more people got married at maybe a tender, younger age than they do right now. And there was probably a much better respect for the home, like than there is right now. Um, could is there a role? Are there roles that are whether just divinely or genetically or
Mhm.
scientifically or just really innate to both men and women?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a huge
Development of
question.
children and the family.
Yeah, yeah, that's a huge question, right? Is the nature versus nurture question on,
Yeah.
on all levels, right? Of all human behavior. There's a
Yes, of course.
natural default in terms of where do you naturally default to? What's your natural
Yes.
inclination? But also, as a nature, but there's also then, but that doesn't determine how you nurture yourself going forward. You can make choices that step away from your natural inclination, and you can be just as fulfilled in that and
Yeah.
contribute just as well to social circles as a result of that. So all that, I think to say that, I don't know if this is, and I'm speaking out of my expertise here, but it seems like for a man, what he does is more germane to his personal identity than who he is. And for a woman, who she is more germane to her identity than what she does. And it seems like, as a mother, that beautiful gift of being able to birth children, there's a natural, I think God inspired heartbeat to ensure the health and safe nurturing of the children. A man, because he doesn't go through childbirth and all the emotional attachment that grows out of that, doesn't naturally default to that. And so, for a man, he has to make an intentional effort, more so than a woman, to find what does it mean to be a father who loves, who nurtures, who cares for, takes time with the children, who helps them discover who they are as a person and helps nurture them and give them opportunities to express their giftedness and passions and become who they already are more and more. Men tend generally to look for their identity outside of the family and in social engagements and in work. And when people say, what do you do? It's not just what do I do? It's part of who I am. This is my identity. And so men have to fight against that as letting that control how they develop their relationships within their family. And I think, social constructs of patriarchal societies have just contributed to making that a much harder pathway for men to be tender, to be listeners, to be nurturers. Women naturally default to that. And I think, again, that's the Imago Dei, the heart of God. There's the heart and there's the actions, and there's the doer, the power, an actor. That's the natural default of the maleness. There's the heart, the nurturer. That's a natural default of the femaleness as part of the expression of being created in the image of God. And we need to together work that as male and female in a relationship with the family and make sure those are in balance with each other.
Beautiful. As we conclude, what are your thoughts on this? This is just personal experience. I growing up, and even now at my age, I somewhat have a very good relationship with my mom than I had with my dad. Even when my dad was living, I felt a sense of responsibility towards her. And up to now, I still feel that, and I feel. I think I love my dad without doubt, but I think there's extra notches, not even a notch high, but maybe 2 more notches when it comes to mom. I tend to get a bit more sensitive. Is it just my experience, or could I say that male children tend to have a very big soft spot for their mothers, and somewhat female children have a soft spot for their dads?
I think, that's the more generalized human experiences I've seen it in my own life, but also culturally. I mean, there's cultural expressions where, even if we have good friends who are Inuit from Northern Canada, and in their culture, the grandmothers are probably the highest respected people in their culture. And you have other cultures that are matrilineal in terms of descent, right? They trace their descent through the mothers, not through the fathers, where the women are highly respected. But I think just even naturally, there's a natural heart connection between a son and a mother. That's different between a son and a father. I think it's not unusual that sons have challenging relationships with the father, because the father's identity is based on what he does, And so he looks at what the son does, and it doesn't always measure up to what the father expects the son should do. But a woman's natural default is one of the heart. It's one of loving relationships. And that's where we all hunger and thirst. And so that's where we find that heartbeat. And for a daughter with her father, really, she's looking for affirmation
Mm.
of who she is, of value. And men aren't always good at giving affirmations of value. If it doesn't,
Mm.
if it's not based on great achievements, right?
Yes.
Just to affirm value without achievement is hard for a man. It's not hard for a woman because it's who you are that matters, not what you do, as the essence. So, yeah, I mean, that's just
Beautiful.
me speaking on my observations, not scientific or, but anyway,
Mm.
for what it's
It
worth.
looks like it. I agree with what you say, and I know we don't share similar cultures, so
Mm,
probably there's a lot of truth to it because I could agree. I couldn't. I mean, I couldn't agree more with what you just said.
mm,
That women tend to love more and tend to not put conditions
mm.
on their love. Their love is more in the realm of. Is not in the realm of filial or the other type of love. It's in the realm of agape more.
Oh, right. Yeah, good
It's,
point. Good
it's quite
point.
unconditional.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing. So as we finish, I want us to just maybe just pay a few tributes to women in our lives. I'll allow you to say something, then I'll finish, and then probably we could close. You don't need to comment, but you can just say what has been the blessing for you as a man to have those women in your lives. Could be your
Mm,
children, could be your parents, could be your wife, just a blessing that God foresaw in creating us in the imago Dei in Genesis 1:26. It's male and female.
mm,
So and then obviously Genesis 2:7 it says we are not complete without that part.
mm.
So yeah, let's just share a bit of what are those blessings that we can count and say, wow, we are blessed in this way because of this magnificent plan of the imago Dei being male and female.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. It's helped me reflect. I mean, obviously, my mother is a huge influence. She was the tender, gentle, loving, unconditionally person. She was the heart of our family, and I've innately said that's who I want to become, that kind of a person. Uh, and
Mm.
so she's been an example of a pastoral heart for me in very significant ways, self-sacrificial heart. We
Yes.
we would have suppers and have a chicken supper, and she would take the wing or the neck and go, Mom, have some white meat here. She said, No, that's for you. I want my children to have the best. I was like, Mom, no,
Wow.
I'm happy. So she, sacrificed for the sake of us kids. um,
Wow.
which is a great example for
Beautiful.
me in self-sacrifice, putting others first. My wife obviously
Yeah.
is a gift of grace. She completes me. She helps me
Mm.
become more who I can be, and encourages me in that, and supports me in that. And you need that cheerleader behind you, right, to help you move forward when you're not always certain. So no, this is I see this is who you are. You need to move in this direction. Even my doctoral studies. I had to move away for
Mm.
2 years from my family to start my doctoral studies, and she said it's going to kill me to
Yeah.
have you move away for 2 years. I mean, I came back, every 6 weeks kind of thing. But what you're doing right
Yeah.
now as an electrician, it's killing me even more to see you just be an electrician because that's not who God's called you to be. So you need to move and get your PhD. And I said, wow, thank you. That's an amazing gift of grace. Okay, well,
Yeah.
let's figure this out. Um, and I'll
Beautiful.
just point to another lady who was in my church congregation. Her name's Elfrida.
Mm.
And she was just such an example of um, faith in the midst of suffering. She had a degenerative back
Mm.
disease, experienced extreme pain for years and years and years and years and years. But she was just faithful to the Lord in spite of it all, and said, "Wow, that's the kind of faithfulness that I will aspire to. I know, Lord, I don't follow you because of what you give me. I follow you because of who
Yes.
you are and who I am in you.
Mm.
And I just want to be faithful in that way. And she was actually very significant in my life too, as an example of, a shepherd teacher. Um,
Mm.
just one quick thing. I was planning to go overseas with Wycliffe Bible Translators when I was in my late teens, early 20s. And she said to
Mhm.
me, Ralph, I think we need you in Canada. I'm going, what do you mean? Like there's millions of Canadians in Canada. Millions of Christians in Canada. You don't need another one. But in Papua New Guinea,
Yeah.
there's very few, and they're dying without Christ. And
Mm.
we can't even communicate Christ because we don't know their language. So I want to go live with a tribe, learn their language, translate the New Testament, give them a written language, teach them how to read and write that language, and then we can
Yeah.
see the gospel spread. And she, that haunted me, that statement of hers for whatever reason. And then when God
Mm.
basically prevented us from going overseas, I was able to rest in a
Yes.
comment of hers and going, look at that. That was prophetic from her. Thank you, Lord.
Beautiful.
That helps me stay in Canada and see that, okay, maybe you wanted me to stay here, even though I did not want to stay here. So yeah. So anyway, those are three women that I would identify.
Wow, that's so beautiful. I think it's true. Women have such extra intuition. I think they
Mhm.
get to, yeah, they hear, they see, they feel, they glean more from the Lord sometimes than we do. Most of the times, in my opinion, and understanding than we do.
Mhm.
Feels like sometimes for me, especially, sometimes I have to hit walls to hear, oh, the Lord was saying this, and I
Mhm.
didn't pay attention
Mhm.
because of the drive. Sometimes I just want to go do it. Yeah, in my life, I also have a couple of women that really played a significant role. Predominant my mom. My home was very patriarchal. I think I would say that because my dad was a very dominant character in the community where we lived. He was celebrated, and mom was like, she was very invisible, but a force for stability in the home.
Mhm.
To the place where right now I believe if you're a great wife, you'll never be heard. You just see the stability around. People might not hear about you, but people will just see how your home is stable, how your children
Yeah.
are growing, and how everything looks like. Yeah, that's how my home was.
Yeah.
People didn't hear about mom, but I mean, she bore. There's 12 of us. She bore 11 of the 12 children,
Oh.
and she made sure that all of us had, what I would say, a good life in a sense, education, upbringing, and whatnot. So she was this silent but very forceful presence, I would say. You'd never hear much about her. But then right now, when I look back, I see just how much forceful she was
Mhm.
to keep the home the way it was and whatnot. And my dad was a very ambitious man. I don't know how many times she had to hold back and maybe push and whatnot. Because I mean, he was very driven. So I think when you're married to a very driven man, you have to be very stable and steady
Mhm.
to keep
Mhm.
the boat steady the way our home was when I was growing up. So she's actually one of my heroes, I would say. She's still living now. Very beautiful woman. Up to now, you'd never, when you see her, you'd never know just how many children she's raised and what some of us are doing now. She's such a wonderful and beautiful woman.
Mhm.
Yeah, and also the next one is my wife. I've known my wife for so long. We did Sunday school together, so she's been a fixture in my life.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
she's been a fixture in my life. So we've been, yeah. So I've known her for so long. I feel like we were born in the same family sometimes.
Mhm.
So she's been so uh, instrumental in becoming in me being the person that I am.
Mhm.
I was also like dad, very driven, wanting to do just go oriented and not caring about many things. But she's the one that the Lord has used to even just for me to settle down in ministry full
Mhm.
time. It's because of her sensing this is where you're supposed to be, just the way you put it. Because at some point I worked in the bank at some point, and I was just wanting to just go for it. But every time I come home, I'm just sad. And she was like, "Oh, this is not you.
Mhm.
When are you going to realize that this is not you?" So she's been that pillar, I would say, pillar for me, pillar for my children. Even in the period that she hasn't been fine, the moment that she's fine, like if she's not fine in a month, if there's a week that she's fine, we all feel it. Just we feel her presence, just how she just carries us all. So she's that beautiful. And the third one is a woman called Miriam. She led me to Christ, and she was my first disciple. I'll never forget that woman. She was a teacher in Sunday school and in junior fellowship. That was a notch higher than Sunday school. She really demonstrated Christ to me. I grew up in a very religious home, but Miriam showed me what it means to be a believer. She led me to Christ. She really demonstrated Christ to me up to now. And this happened almost 20 years ago. I mean, not almost, more than 20 years ago. But I still remember her because of just how significant her impact was in and on my life. So I really celebrate her, and I celebrate mom, I celebrate my wife, and I celebrate many other women that are in my life that I might not remember to talk about and whatnot. But the truth is, women play a significant role in our society. They actually really complete us. Or should I say, if I say complete us, it makes us sometimes feel like we are the center of this whole juggernaut. We complete each other. We make society what it is together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And I think that's the way I want to end this. So thank you, Dr. Connor, for today's session. I think we exhausted a lot about women and how important they play, the role they play, how important the role they play in society is, and that they are also as called to serve the Lord as we are. Looking at the Imago Day, we are all part of it. The Mission Day, we are all part of that mission. Male and female, we've been given that authority and that dominion according to Genesis 1, 26, 27 is for us both male and female. And I think going forward, we appreciate and we salute the women in our lives and the women that the Lord is using in academia, the women that the Lord is using in politics and in every sphere of society. We know that they actually hold our families together, and they are a great influence to actually helping us be what we ought and supposed to be. So thank you so much. It was great talking today. Until next time, bye-bye.
bye. Thank you so much,
Sweet.
Musa, and blessings to all the viewers as we seek to be the image of God, both male and female, as ministers of his grace in this world. Amen.